Hello! Welcome to today's lesson on radio and also uncertainty reduction. How do we know it's okay? Oh boy. Okay, so uncertainty reduction is a theory about how we really hate not knowing what's going to happen. And we really, really hate not being able to predict what's going to happen. What we really want is being able to know what's going to happen. Yeah, so let's talk about that and ways that we can kind of calm ourselves down about the world. We don't like uncertainty. And we like uncertainty in real small pieces, but we don't like uncertainty in really, really big pieces like, global pandemics that make everything not work the way we expect. We only like uncertainty in fun, controllable pieces, like new flavors of Oreos or chips. We don't like uncertainty in, if we're going to be able to have classes as usual. Human communication is used to gain knowledge and create understanding. When we first had the coronavirus, we wanted to know, what is this thing? How is it going to affect our lives? When is it going to be over? And we tried to use communication to know those things. We didn't know the answers to that, but we tried to find out. We also try to use communication to find out those things about other humans, right? When you first meet a new human, you say, "Hi, how are you?" But if you are going to spend any time at all with them, what you really want to know is, who are you? Right? You want to know, where are you from? What do you do? What sorts of things do you like? Are we going to get along? Are you going to hurt me? Can we be friends? Right? And this drive to reduce our uncertainty is intensified when any one of four conditions is met. First, if we know we're going to see them again. So this is called the anticipation reaction. So for example, if they're your new roommate, you definitely want to know as much about them as you can because, you're going to be sleeping next to them for months. And so you definitely want to know some things about this person. Or if they have something you want, your new professor, you want to learn some things about this person to see, just to know some stuff about them. Is this person a harsh grader? Are they going to stick really definitely to deadlines? Are they going to be empathetic if you have a bad day and don't get something turned in on time? Can you email them if you have a question and they'll be helpful? Or are they going to be like, nope, figure it out on your own. This is college. Like, you want to know some of these things. Or if they're weird. If people are weird, as we talked about last class period, you want to figure out if they're weird in a good, quirky way or if they're being weird in a dangerous way. Because you need to know that. And then also, if they're from a group that you don't belong to, you need to figure out, is this part of their culture? Is this part of them, who they are? Is this something that is a group thing for them? Or is it something that's a them thing? I don't know. Is this a football team thing? Or is this just a thing that they do? And we generally want to try to separate that out and figure out if this is an individual characteristic or a cultural characteristic. So, same scenario. You're getting ready to register for classes. Maybe you're going to take one with Dr. Nichols. You don't know. So which of these reasons might you have to decrease your uncertainty about Dr. Nichols? Anticipation reaction, incentive value, deviance, or outgrouping, right? You're getting ready to register for classes. You aren't sure which electives to take. You have the option of taking a class with Dr. Nichols, who you haven't had a class with before. Why might you want to decrease your uncertainty about this Dr. Nichols person? Which of these reasons might you have? So some of the aspects of uncertainty are that you want to be able to both predict and explain other people and what they're going to be like. So you want to be able to predict what will happen next or how someone will respond to you. And you want to be able to explain what they have done or why someone has done what they have done. So, for example, if I walk into a Starbucks, I want to be able to predict what the barista is going to do when I place my order, right? And I want to be able to explain why they have acted towards me the way that they have. And typically I can do this because I know the social script. I know how to order a coffee and I know how to get it. I know how to say the right words, and they have a specific set of words that they say back, and we are able to do this exchange and everything is fine. But occasionally something gets messed up, and so then we get all confused. We want to be able to reduce both behavioral and cognitive uncertainty. Behavioral is how you should act, and cognitive is what you should say and how you should say it. So let me give you two examples of when I messed these up, which will hopefully clarify for you what these mean, and also you can have a good laugh at me and how I'm bad at humaning. So, for example, I went to Panera. These are all in the far before times, way before we had a global pandemic. I went to Panera and I was standing in line, and there were no people there. Just like one guy standing against the wall, not anywhere near where we were standing, where the cashiers were. And so I walked up to a cashier and said, I would like, and the guy standing against the wall said, "Excuse me, I'm in line." And I was like, oh. And I was very flustered because how did I know he was standing in line? He wasn't anywhere near the cashier. There were two cashiers just standing at their cash registers, and this guy was like 12 feet away from them, and he was standing with his back to a wall. He looked like he was waiting to pick something up. He didn't look like he was standing in line at all. There were no other people in there. I had no way of knowing he was standing in line. And according to what I knew about standing in line, he was not standing in line. And so it should have been fine for me to walk up to the cashier and give my order. According to my behavioral knowledge, I was behaving properly, but according to his, I was not, and I violated the behavioral contract. And I was upset for a long time because I had not done, my behavioral uncertainty was not correct, and I was very upset about it. An example of cognitive uncertainty, I was in London with my brother, and we went into a pub, and I said, the bartender said, what can I get for you? And I said, yeah, could I get, and this guy turned to me and said, why are you being so rude? And I was like, apparently you can't say, could I get? I don't know why, but That's not what you're supposed to say, and that's not how you're supposed to say it when you are ordering a beer in London. I don't know what you're supposed to say, but apparently that's a rude way to do it. So my cognitive uncertainty, I did it wrong. That's an okay way to do it in the US, but it's not an okay way to do it in London. But I know how to order at Starbucks. At Starbucks, you can just walk in and say, "Hi, I would like a," and then, you can say all the words, but you have to say them in the right order, and you have to say the right kinds of words, and you can't say big or small or medium, because at Starbucks, those are not the right words. But at Dunkin', you can't say grande, because that's not the right words either, right? These are cognitive uncertainties. We have very special hamburger restaurants in the United States where part of the rule of the hamburger restaurant is knowing what the cognitive, knowing the special words. And if you don't say the special words, you don't get the special hamburgers. You just get plain boring ones with nothing on them. And it's part of like the club of the hamburger restaurant that if you know the special words, then you get to have the special hamburgers. But if you don't know the special words, you don't get the special hamburgers. And my cognitive uncertainty at these places is so high that I have never had a special hamburger, even though I've eaten at these places several times. Because I don't know what I'm supposed to say. I don't know how to find out. I don't like this. I was homeschooled my freshman year of college. For some reason, my college decided to have a prom. I don't know why. I was freshman class vice president, and so I had to go, and I was so uncomfortable that I stood behind a plant the whole time because I didn't know what I was supposed to do. So I stood behind a plant. High levels of uncertainty. On the other hand, if you want me to just like get on a plane and move to a random foreign country, I'll do that. That's okay. People are weird. All right, so imagine you're getting ready for same scenario. You maybe can take a class with this Dr. Nichols person that you haven't had a class with before. How can you reduce your uncertainty about prediction, explanation, behavioral, and cognitive uncertainty? So how can you do this? All right. Now, you do not need to know these axioms, but I wanted to give you a sense of how this theory works. So uncertainty reduction works as a series of formulas, basically, that can be plugged into each other. And with these axioms, you can make lots of other axioms because you can switch different sides of them and kind of like mix and match them so that you can make lots of other axioms out of them. So an increase in communication equals a decrease in uncertainty. The way this theory is set up, it seems like these are always true. These are not always true. Have you ever talked to somebody and gotten more confused? Of course you have. You're in college. You've probably talked to a professor before. I talk to myself sometimes and get more confused. In fact, that happens a lot to me. So that is not always true, but it's generally true. The more you talk to somebody, the more you know about them, right? Typically. Increase in nonverbal warmth equals decrease in uncertainty. That is, the more friendly somebody is, the less uncertain you feel about them. High uncertainty equals high need to seek information. If you don't know what's going on, you want to know what's going on and you try to find out, right? High uncertainty equals low self-disclosure and low intimacy. If you don't know what's going on, you're not going to start telling your life story to random people. Usually. There are counterpoints to this, like the tell your life story to the random person on the airplane. And so it kind of like, there's a boomerang part of this, but typically, no. High uncertainty equals high reciprocity, which means if you and I both don't understand what's going on at all, and I tell you something about me, you usually are going to tell me the same level of information about you. So if we both are new here and don't know anybody else and don't know anything about each other, and I say, hi, this is my hometown, you're going to say, hi, this is my hometown, and we're going to exchange equal information. This is what reciprocity means. More similarity between people leads to a decrease in uncertainty. So the more similar you are to someone else, the less uncertain you're going to feel about them, because you're going to feel like you can kind of predict more about them. You're going to feel like you know more about them than you do. Decreases in uncertainty lead to increases in liking. The more you know about somebody, the more you like them. And this is an interesting thing. Again, this doesn't hold all the time. There are some people that the more I get to know them, the less I like them. But typically, the more you're able to predict what somebody's going to do, the more you like them, because you don't feel threatened by them. Shared communication networks equals decrease in uncertainty for the same kind of reason as the last one. Oh, I switched too quickly, but anyway. So you can also just kind of like mix and match parts of that. Okay, so same scenario. You've heard about this Dr. Nichols person. Maybe you'll take a class. What do the axioms predict will happen in your first meeting with Dr. Nichols? Here they are again. You've never met this Dr. Nichols before. You got to have a meeting. Maybe you're going to take their class. What do these axioms predict will happen? Okay, new scenario. You got a low grade on a paper. Oh, you don't understand why. You thought it was a perfectly good paper. You have to decide what to do. Here are some strategies you can have to reduce your uncertainty about why you got a low grade. You can get more information. You can do this using a passive strategy where you sit back and observe, wait to see if other people got low papers and if they find out why. You can ask a friend, hey, what did you get on your paper? And do you know why? Or you can use an interactive strategy where you go ask your professor directly. By the way, this is the best one. Don't just march into your professor's office and say, hey, why did I get this grade? But faculty are very, very happy to help you learn. That is our job. That is why we are here. That is what we want to do. If you walk into, well, right now you can't walk into our offices, but if you set up an appointment and say, hey, I thought that I had done a good job on this paper, but my grade doesn't seem to reflect that. Can you help me understand? Your professor should be very happy to say, oh, yeah, so let's talk about this, and give you reasons. And you may even be allowed to make changes to the paper and get a higher grade. But at the very least, you should know why. So the interactive strategy in this situation is probably best. It's not always the best strategy in all situations, but in this situation it's probably the best one. But before you go walking into your professor's office, you might want to choose your plan complexity. How much detail are you going to go into? How many backup plans are you going to have? You might not need too many here, but if you're, planning a heist or to ask somebody out, or I don't know, what other really complex plans might you need to have? I don't know. You also might want to hedge using ambiguous words, or humor, or uncertain phrases like, I don't know, but. Now, a note about hedging. Hedging is a way of preserving an out, but hedging is also a way of showing that you are in a lower power position in the relationship, and hedging has been, in our culture, is very heavily programmed into people perceived as female, and it can cause a lot of difficulties for people, because when someone is socially pressured to hedge all the time, they are often taken much less seriously, and their ideas can be downplayed a lot, even when their ideas are really smart and important, because they have been trained since they were very small children to hedge and use uncertain phrases when presenting their ideas, and that can be a significant challenge for a lot of people. Whereas males are not taught to do this by and large, although there are some racial connotations to this as well. It is largely a gendered languaging strategy. So you do want to be very, very careful around this recommendation from uncertainty reduction. It can be used strategically, but do be very careful about it and conscious of it. If you are a person who uses a lot of hedging language, it doesn't mean that you're bad or anything, but do know that it makes it sound like you are purposely being in a lower power position. And you can use that very strategically. But sometimes people who grew up little girls have been taught to use only hedging language. And that's important to recognize. You also, and this is the fourth and final strategy, want to consider the hierarchy of where the problem might be happening. Our tendency is to alter the lowest level variable, the thing that's closest to us. So if I am trying to communicate with somebody else and they are not understanding my communication, my kind of default is to shout, right? Just say it louder. Say the exact same thing louder. We're cognitive misers, which means that we don't like to think through things if we don't have to, because it's hard and it takes work. And who has time for that? I'm really, really busy watching TV right now. So our tendency is to just try to change the smallest thing that we can. That is usually not where the communication is going wrong. Shouting doesn't usually fix it. It's often that I have chosen the wrong words. Often the person has heard me, they haven't understood me. So you need to think through where the message isn't working rather than just like saying it louder. Maybe you're saying it too quickly. Maybe you are using the wrong word. Maybe you're not using specific enough words. I have this problem when my partner and I are trying to communicate that I will say, hey, could you unjiggle the thingummy? And he'll say, what? And I'll say, unjiggle the thingummy. Yeah, because louder was the problem there. Clearly. No, the problem was I didn't use any real words. So you want to think about, maybe the problem was in the words part of the communication, not the loudness part of the communication, right? And try to fix the problem where it's occurring, not just where it's most convenient to try to fix it. Okay, so thinking about this idea of uncertainty and uncertainty reduction, what can you tell about this person from their photo? Go ahead and stereotype all you want. I'll wait. We use visual cues to help reduce our uncertainty. We draw we make assumptions about people based on what they look like, and we categorize them based on what they look like, and use those as kind of basics for reducing our uncertainty. Also, would you ask this person airport directions? Anyway, this is, if you have not already figured it out, a photograph of me from 4 years ago, maybe. At this point, 5 years ago. How about this person? This is a picture of my brother when we were in Baku, Azerbaijan. He was a senior in college at the time. He is now a medical resident. This was a while ago. All right, let's talk about radios and what radios have to do with uncertainty reduction. So, radio made instant news possible for the first time for like a large audience. You had telegraphs before this, but telegraphs and telegrams were not things that were instantly available to all people every day, right? Where radio was available to a mass audience for the first time. World War I was the first war that was broadcast live in the United States. I think that there were some kind of scattered more regional wars that were broadcast live, but World War I was the first major war that was broadcast live, and it felt really intimate to people. They could tune in every evening and hear about what was going on the war front. Every day they could know what happened that day, and that was a big deal. And people wanted to know what was going on, right? Immediately, if not sooner. If your dad and brothers were in a war on the front lines fighting, you'd want to know, right? Like, We can't even imagine what it's like not to, but people didn't before this. You wouldn't know for months sometimes. And at this point, they could. And that was crazy. Radio was great for uncertainty reduction in this sense. And it significantly changed people's expectations of how news should work. Instead of finding out things that were local immediately, but other things not for weeks or months, you got to know now about things that happened on the other side of the world. And this was brand new, and it was crazy. I'm going to talk about two examples of this that really exemplify how radio worked with uncertainty reduction and immediacy. So Franklin Delano Roosevelt, during World War II, started doing fireside chats. And this was kind of like when Obama went on Between Two Ferns with Zach Galifianakis on YouTube. Like, the president had only been on the radio to give speeches before, but during World War II, FDR started to do these fireside chats where he would get on the radio and he would talk like he was in your house with you, sitting in your living room, and just like assure people that things were going to be okay. And he would give some updates, he would give some news, but he would mostly just kind of talk. He would talk about what was going on, but in a really casual way. And because radios were like TVs are in living rooms now, kind of like in the middle of the room with all the chairs around it facing towards it, it really was like you were sitting in your living room with the president and he was talking to you. And there wasn't media that was like that before radios. I mean, you didn't like have a book that all your chairs were around in the living room, right? So the president would sit in your living room with you, sort of, and chat with you about what was going on in the war. I think this was weekly. I think it was a weekly program. And this made people feel a lot less uncertain about what was going on. It made people believe a lot more that things were okay. World War II went on for a long time. We're fighting in Europe and in the Pacific. And even though we got involved later than other countries, it was a long war and a lot of people died. And a lot of people in America didn't have work and were not eating good food, and it was a hard time. And these fireside chats helped people a lot with their uncertainty. And it also just felt really immediate and really intimate to have the voice of the President of the United States in your living room with you. And it was a really important thing. The second was War of the Worlds. So War of the Worlds is a story by H.G. Wells that Orson Welles, who was a filmmaker, did a radio production of, and the radio production, famously, a lot of people had missed the first part of it where they said that it was a radio production, and they tuned in a little bit late, And so they missed that part, and so they didn't know that it was fictional. And it was done in a way where there would be like classical music playing, and then somebody would break in with breaking news that something like a giant object had fallen from the sky into New Jersey, and they didn't know what it was, but they were going to send a reporter to check it out. And then it'd go back to somebody playing classical music. And then, you know, like 45 minutes later, somebody in New Jersey would be like, this thing, it's a big orb, and it's very warm, and it's fallen in this field in New Jersey, and right? And War of the Worlds is an alien invasion story. And so lots and lots of people got real freaked out by it because they thought it was really happening. I put the photo at the very beginning of this slideshow is from the BBC adaptation of War of the Worlds. I think that there was a film, War of the Worlds, with Tom Cruise in it for some reason, also. But anyway, and nobody could like check, because other than the people who lived in New Jersey near this field, but like how were they going to tell anybody else that it wasn't really happening? And because it seemed super real, and it was using the radio technology and such, nobody knew that it wasn't real. If you didn't hear the thing at the very beginning that said that it wasn't real, you didn't have any way of knowing that it wasn't real. And so it freaked people out a lot, and they didn't, it just, yeah, it freaked people out a lot. So it was wildly successful as a radio show, I guess, but people also thought that they'd really been invaded by aliens, and they were not happy about it when they found out it was not real. All right, so what about podcasts? Are podcasts radio? How are they similar to radio? How are they different? Are they an extension of radio? What do you think? Are podcasts mass media? Why are we not? Like a mass media platform? Is podcasting a mass media industry? Do you listen to podcasts? All right, homework. 3 things. 1, read chapter 7 about movies. 2, track all the references to movies and all the actual movies you encounter between now and next class. 3, start your media fast. Take notes so that you can write your report afterwards. You might want to go check out the media fast report. It is due the week of the 21st, so you can go look at it there in that folder. If your media fast is about movies, you can go look at the well, let me know and we'll switch your media tracking for this week from movies to one of the other ones that will be later. So you do still need to track something, either movies or something else, but let me know if you need to switch it. And make sure that you are starting your media fast now and taking notes on it. Go check out the media fast report so you know what to take notes on. Okay? Okay. Have a great day, and I will see ya when I see ya next week. Bye.